Welcome to another episode of Marketing Agency Exposed. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, gentlemen.
Good morning. We took a little break here over the last few weeks.
Yeah, how's everyone doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. I like the attitude. Not the attitude.
How are you doing?
It's not an attitude. Attitude is such a weird.
No, it's
because it can be very like derogatory. Like your parents. I don't. Straighten out your attitude. Don't give me that attitude.
Yeah.
I'm like,
no.
Oh.
I got that.
Didn't Joan Jett have a song about attitude?
Joan Jett?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know who that is.
No, she was talking about bad reputation.
Oh, yeah. No, I know that song. I saw Joan Jett in concert one time.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
How
they
was
opened
it?
for Journey.
Oh, man.
She did.
They opened for Journey.
She
That's
opened for
amazing.
Journey and her band. She was actually pretty good. I mean, yeah, she was good.
It's amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
So speaking of attitude,
Going back to that attitude, yeah.
let's talk about clients' attitude.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
No, seriously, we're going to talk today about client expectation.
Yeah, and I want to be more specific in their expectation of the results that they get from your business and trying to understand how to manage those expectations. I think one of the things for me is that I think we should get into discussion about is how we find that we actually ask and really document what we're going to do for our clients, what we expect. We try to make some estimates based on best practices, based on history in the industry. But even then, it's not. We can, miss the mark in some ways, or things change, or the product, and there's a lot of things out of our control that kind of stop the process, the sales process, the lifetime values, the people, being dedicated to the client, and stuff like that. And so it's kind of hard for us to sometimes understand what that looks like. And I think sometimes we find that our clients say one thing a lot of times when we start working with a new client, for instance, but a year later, their expectation, even though they don't really verbalize it, you can start to see throughout the process that what they really want, they've actually never targeted nor measured. And we haven't measured, nor have they vocalized it. So,
how far do you guys dig into goals and what they want and what that looks like?
We dig as far as we can. A lot of times we'll have clients that just don't have the ability to track attribution at the level that we would like to.
Yeah.
So the challenge is they don't have the tech, they don't have built up to basically measure a lot of that funnel. It's not specifically, mostly it's the bottom funnel. Or things go offline and their sales process goes offline, and then it's harder to track the attribution for our efforts.
But they do have business goals.
They have business goals. Yeah, they have business goals. A lot of times it's interesting. You have to really dig for those business goals.
Right.
Like you have to ask a lot of questions, and typically you get to the point a lot of times where you stump them. And you're like, well, this is probably something you should try to figure out internally first and let us know. But so, yeah, I just wanted to just unpack that a little bit. And because I think that's the biggest frustration. I think one of the things that I tell my team is that we are financial advisors. That's it. We're not marketing people. We're financial advisors. And the first question you ask a financial advisor when you give them all your money to invest, right, is what should I expect my return to be? And even if they don't say that, that's what they're expecting, even if they don't say it. So if you're not proactive as an agency, I believe, of detailing what that would look like and how to measure it so that you can come back and say, this is what we did, and here's a financial number that we have done for you. I think that all agencies are going to find out that most clients, even if they want awareness, even if they're like, oh, we just want you to do this and bring all this awareness to us, what they really mean is we want you to make us money and we want you to help sell our product. or and we want to know how much we want to know how much you brought in.
Right.
That's good.
I think one of the challenges with that is there's so much out of your control.
100%.
Like, first of all, their business. It's funny how I have conversations with people and they're like, we're not getting, and we don't really manage Facebook ads or anything like that. But like I do consult with a lot of businesses across their marketing strategy. And a lot of times they're like, we're not getting the ROAS that we want. And it's like, and so we're going to change ad agencies. And I'm like, do you expect that to fix it?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. And it's like, well, do you know what ROAS means? And they're like, yeah, return on ad spend. I'm like, okay, well, do you know if the ads are getting the people to the site and they're not buying? It's probably not the problem of the ad agency, right? And the point I'm making is, as you dig into this, I think you realize that as a service provider, whether you're doing marketing services or consulting or something like that, you really have a lot out of your control. And so I think it's really important to, yes, pursue a financial number, of course, right? But it's almost like you're more of an advisor than you are a driver.
Yeah.
Even if you're doing things, because ultimately, like, that person or that business needs to have a product that people want. They have to have a pricing strategy that people want to pay. They have to be willing to, spend in certain places and say certain things, right? And there's only so much that you can control, which is really only your expertise. And so I think to me, the results conversation is highly nuanced and probably, I think it's probably damaged by maybe a lot of them, not you, but a lot of agencies saying that we can get you this certain result when that is an illusion. An agency cannot get you anything.
Yeah.
Like, they're advising. So all that you can guarantee is your expertise and your ability and your skill set and your high qualityness of who you are, right? If you go to anyone, and it's funny because if you go to anyone like that's like the top of their game, like super, super, super high level, and you're like, and you go to hire them to do something, they're going to be like, look, I'm going to do this thing. I don't know if it's going to work for you because I don't know anything about your business, but I do know that I'm awesome.
If a company is going to spend 8 to 12% of their revenues, right, put it back into advertising, that's a big portion, probably the largest portion outside of product development that they're going to spend on their product. So they definitely have, they want to spend it correctly because they need a return on investment. And I think that's the challenge. And I think a lot of agencies, including ourselves, to be honest with you, at times are optimistic, maybe sometimes overly optimistic, or you had some experience in certain industries, but there's a nuance to this new client, or let's just say, this is talk about new clients or something, something you haven't had a lot of history with.
Right.
Know their product, know their value propositions, and really do believe in the product, but just for some reason there's something in the process that isn't resonating with consumers as well. It could be messaging. It might not just be messaging. It might just be the product itself. It might be the way that the people buy the product, or maybe it could be the competitors. There's a lot, like you said, a lot of variables.
Plus you mentioned the goals thing. Because we dig a lot into the goals, and I found that you almost can't talk enough about that because most people haven't really figured that out.
Yeah,
like most people haven't decided what they want, right? And even worse in corporations, right? And I'm not bagging on any business here, but I'm just saying, in corporations, like, someone gets the mandate, go find a company to do this thing, and they go find a company to do that thing, and then the company, most companies, which is I think a big thing that agencies have to change. Most companies are like, oh, cool, we can do that thing. Problem number one, right? And so I think it's rare that people put that you have a true partner that puts you through the rigor. You being the client, the company, through the rigor of really establishing clear goals. Like, and we know this from coaching. Like if you ever play with any sort of pro sports coach, or if you have a high level business coach, it's not bad to challenge you. It's actually to your benefit to challenge you on getting really clear on goals. And it's really frustrating. Like I've had that happen to me, and it's like the person that's challenging me on it is starting to frustrate me because I'm frustrating me. You know, like they're like, no, that's not clear enough. Let's get clearer. No, that's not clear enough. Let's get clearer. And I think that tends to be a problem in the service provider role, because if you don't, like to your point, like you stump them, like that's pretty common, because probably most of those companies haven't really thought like what is our goal as a business? How does this thing that we're going to do fit into that goal? What is our goal for this thing? Yeah. Right. And then, you know, and that should actually influence a lot of the strategies that they do. So
we've started to kind of be able to try to identify red flags early on with clients, even when we're just pitching them. When we ask them questions about their financials, not their business financials, but their product financials, let's just say it's a product, and they have a hard time giving us what they believe they want their cost of acquisition to be for a client, any lifetime value data, anything at all that they have already. If they can't give us clear ideas on that, that's a big red flag for us.
Right.
Because there's no goals, there's no target. We're going to hit 100% of targets we don't actually identify, right? We can't see a target, we're not going to hit anything. So at that point, it's guessing. And a lot of times they come to us and go, well, you tell us what it should be. And the challenging thing is
tell me what I want.
Yes. And I can,
Brad, I see your future. Tell you want a 1988 Porsche 911.
Yes, and I can tell you that we're going to get you a CPM of between $5 and $10. Like I could probably confidently say things like that and be pretty accurate. But just because I get millions of people to look at an ad doesn't mean you're going to get millions of dollars of revenue from that.
But that's an important point to make, right? Is that what you can promise is what you know you can control.
Correct.
Which in that area, ads is really that, right? How many people are going to view this thing?
Yeah.
And about what click-through rate we can get.
Yeah. Now, we can start making models once we start campaigns, when we start looking at data, as long as we have the data hooked into something that's valuable for us to see. And again, that's where the tech kind of comes in. With clients, obviously, e-com is a lot easier, and you're being in the e-com space, and even, you're.
Wait, was that a diss?
No,
it's a lot easier.
No. You're just more silent. You're just more segmented. Like
I'm just messing with this morning.
I know, but you know what I'm talking about, where the whole funnel is completely digital or online.
Yeah, it's super easy.
The process. It's not super.
I'm just joking.
It's super easy. You got it made. You don't even have to work.
Most of the time, we just press a button.
That's all. It's easy.
I'd like to jump in here
and
say that a few episodes back, at some point, we've talked about it a couple of times. If we were to zoom out and say, okay, how do we solve or address these issues and these concerns with clients? Is one way that we've talked about in the past is most agencies don't do this, but more and more are, and I think it's really valuable, is before you even engage and sign a contract with a client is have an immersion meeting or an immersion session with them and get them to pay for it and say, I'm not going to quote you a price, or we're not even going to give you a plan until we spend a day in an immersion. You're going to come with all that data. We're going to learn. And then we're going to give you a strategy document, and we're going to charge you a small fee for that. I think that eliminates a lot. But I think, let me just finish, is that's really helpful. But I think a deeper problem, then that will help to eliminate what I'm going to talk about now, is I think communication and clarity with clients is something that we don't give enough attention to. There's a phenomenon in communication and in psychology. It's called switch tracking. And you do this with your spouse or your significant other all the time. You're talking to them and you're having this conversation and it might heat up, and then all of a sudden you realize you're both talking about two different things. Like your mind has gone off on this and she's still talking about this, or whatever it is. And it happens all the time. And then you just look at each other and go, that's not even what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Or she's continuing the thought process and didn't tell you that she's moved on to another scenario. That's called switch tracking, right? And what happens is there's miscommunication and disagreements. And I think we do that many times is we're so immersed in the details of marketing and strategy and digital. And a client comes to us, and it's ramping up even more now with the new technologies that are coming out, is if you're immersed in a subject, it's almost like you're just focused, and then you get around people that are like-minded. The three of us are focused on it. We talk about it. And then we go and talk to our business partner or our client, and they're not immersed in this stuff.
Yeah.
They're immersed in something else. And so then what happens is that switch tracking phenomenon. They're saying the words and you're saying the words, but you both are meaning different things.
Yeah.
And I think that happens a lot, because you said before we push record, the client says, I just want to get awareness out there and I want impressions. And you're going, oh, I can do that. Here's a plan for getting your brand awareness out there. And then one day, 2 months in, they're like, hey, we're going to have to reevaluate our contract here because we're not getting any sales. And you're saying, you didn't say anything about sales. You talked about brand awareness and impressions and your share of voice and whatever. And they're like, in their head, they're like, well, isn't that the same as like selling products online? So I think getting really clear on the language and the understanding, and you touched on that earlier, I think is really, really important. I don't think we give enough attention to that because we're so like focused on our baby, and isn't our baby beautiful? And everybody else wants to understand and see how beautiful our baby is. And meanwhile, they're like, no, I don't really care, or I'm focused on my own kid.
I used to go to this. We had a client, and good client, really cool, fun project to work on. The owner used to say, the guy who started the company used to say, I want you to help us make us famous. And every time I went in that meeting, I walked out and go, no, he doesn't. He doesn't care about his brand being famous. That's just, if he's famous, then he must be making money and having a ton of customers. What he's really looking for is people to buy his product. Yeah, that's not famous. That's two different things.
Right.
Yeah, famous is maybe for the long haul, brand equity. That's hopefully something we can do too. But making money is what he wants to do, not just be famous.
Yeah.
And I always walked out of there going, no, you don't. No, you don't, in my head.
Yeah.
But I knew what he meant. What he meant and what he said are two different things.
Yeah. Like clarity and agreement.
Because I think sometimes customers, to be honest with you, if you're on a call and all you're doing with your team is talking about making money, it almost feels like there's not a lot of purpose to that. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, let's say you're working with a startup, and the owner of the startup, it's a small startup, got great ideas, got a really cool product, but the owners funded this whole thing because they're a multimillionaire, and all along they're saying, we just need to make money. We just need to make money. That doesn't really inspire the rest of the team, even though that is what they're doing. That's what let's just call a spade a spade. Like, that's what their objectives are in the end. And there's a lot of other objectives with those things. But I think so a lot of times the language that is spoken is all about like awareness and all these marketing terms that they can even speak and talk to you about, but they mean different things.
That's right. So, and clarity, getting to that
clarity is key. And I think, you mentioned something. I think there's some red flags that an agency has to look at, and you have to address those with some type of training your customer. And, whether it's a day where you sit down with them and you really go through and allow them to understand that you're not magical, right? You're not a magician who can just make magic happen and connect all these dots and show attribution to all your spending, that they don't even have technology to do that. yet somehow you're going to pull that out of the hat down the road and do that because that's what you do. They need to kind of be taught that this is a process, and it's as much as your involvement as it is ours. In fact, we can only pass the ball. We can only get it to the certain yard line. After that, you're going to have to put the thing in the end zone,
Right.
because it's like that's all we can do. And the ball's maybe going to stop someplace, and that's as far as we can push it.
Yeah. Biggest lesson, if you're listening to this and you're a young startup or you're just starting your agency, biggest lesson you can learn, in my opinion, is develop the awareness and strength to walk away from clients when they're not a good fit, and not get caught up in, but they're paying me money and I need this client. That will come back and bite you, because the short-term win of a contract is going to be a long-term deficit on your books for sure. So, and that's part of this too that we haven't even talked about, is what some of the things we're talking about is sometimes it's just not a good fit and you got to walk away because it's not worth the frustration and the misunderstanding of knowing that, oh, there's yellow flags early on. There's red flags in the initial conversations. You need to trust that. You need to trust that and go, there's a good chance this is not a good client for us. Because if they do and don't want to address those issues and give you, okay, what is their lifetime value of their customers? Do you understand really what we're saying? Do you have expectations that are way too high? Listen to those yellow flags, because that's the biggest lesson you can learn, I think, moving forward.
Yeah, I was going to say, just related to, the idea of client expectations and managing that. I think it might start with, I think it starts with the relational dynamic that is created, right? And so if you come into, and that starts way before you meet.
Is that the outro music I'm hearing? Are we on is it?
Oh, you know what?
Are we getting signaled?
Alexa started playing.
Oh,
yeah, that's all right. We'll just shut her off. Shut her off. Yeah, she doesn't obey it as much as I've been told that she's supposed to.
We are living in the age of AI, so it's okay. Alexa can come in and tell us.
It just messes with us.
Tell us what to do.
What I was saying is, so before it really starts before you ever meet, and I think that's one thing that, as I talk to agencies don't necessarily always do, which is create a brand and a personality and a presence that shows that you are truly an expert that is desirable at something. Because when people come in, this is going to sound so counterintuitive, like most of probably what I say. But when people come in, if they think that they're in charge, it's worse for them. If they think that they know more than you or you work for them, it's worse for them. Because you would not be the best at what you would not be the best in the world if that was the case, right? And so I think there's got to be a dynamic of, wait, rather than me selling you, why don't you sell me on how I can help you, right? Because there's so much to, if this is going to work, you need to trust me.
Yes.
So you must sell yourself on me.
Yes.
And if you don't sell yourself on me, then this is not going to work, right? And part of selling yourself on me is making sure that actually puts the pressure back on me, right? Making sure that I know what I'm doing and you believe that.
And let me tell you, let me just kind of share with you one experience of that. And this is just real life here, real stuff. Okay. Had a client. They wanted to understand the marketplace. So we did some focus groups. We did some data that would help us. It was a product in the United States. We went around the country. We did focus groups. Each focus group said the same thing about the cost of the product, what the value was, what they would be willing to do. So this was a kind of a loss leader product for a bigger product that was entering into the marketplace. So the loss leader, we suggested, you got to give this away for free. online. You've got to use this as a tool to gather your list, to make up, to pre-order this next product, to really use this to kind of build the momentum. They decided to price it at a different price that they thought their gut said. And though it wasn't bad, it wasn't a bad price. It just wasn't what people told us that they would do. And sure enough, we were able to get people somewhat interested in it, drive them to websites. Nobody did anything with it. They just sit there and looked at it and go, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to pay that. I'm not going to pay that. Right. And so it didn't succeed. And you go back and then they're like, well, it must be your fault. And I'm like, no, we did focus groups. We even talked about it together that this is what they're saying. This is what our suggestion was. And you decided against that.
Yeah.
What do you do at that point? Like, when somebody doesn't listen and it wasn't even us saying it. It was hundreds of people around the country saying it.
Right.
In your demographic. Right. So it's like, and you'd listen to these people firsthand on audio calls. Like you were part of these focus groups. Like at that point, what do you do? And then they come back and they kind of blame you for the failure. And it's just like the expectation there just wasn't met. Like what expectation did you have? Right. And at that point, I think, that's the challenge that I think that, like you said, you have to define these things early on. Who do I get in bed with and who do I not? Because this was a customer that I knew that didn't have a lot of marketing experience in their leadership. They're just driven by their product and they're very passionate about their product, which is great. I love that. Mm-hmm. But in the end, it's not solving. They just had bigger ideas of what marketing would do for them or what they thought the public would respond to their product. Sometimes, they say, it's the same adage, right? People believe their babies are not ugly and they spend all the time and they work like crazy and they're so passionate about it. And I get that. I appreciate that. I love that side of our business.
I think it would be helpful for any agency to put together and really document for themselves who is the perfect customer and how far out of those lines are your standards, and really stick with them and go, any new customer that comes in, do they meet these 5 requirements, 10 requirements? What is it? And make sure you check them off with each one, and then say, we're going to commit to everybody here on our team, and specifically you as the owner and your partners, to say, hey, no matter how much money it is, if they don't match at least X amount of these, we are not going to engage. Yeah. And really set that standard moving forward. And I know that it's, there's so many unknowns and sometimes there's opportunities that come along. But that is a hard lesson that each one of us on this table have learned the hard way, that, the short-term gain of revenue for the long-term gain of a long-term customer, you just can't even compare them to the headache and the time and the resources that could go into not firing a customer early on.
Yeah. Well, not only that, again, all this may sound this. You could hear this, and it sound like we're not serving customers at the highest level.
Correct.
And that is completely backward, and that is the issue with a lot of how the industry's been structured.
Yes.
Because service is serving you at the highest level, being honest with you, right? And being honest with what I can do. It is not saying yes to everything.
Right. It's a mutual respect for...
But it's not even just respect. It's just honesty, right? And let's just be honest. Like when people are saying, yes, I can do that, no problem. You come to, oh, sure, you want me to, and it's yes, customer's always right. That is not honest. That's dishonest.
Right.
Okay. And that's why things fail. And so service at the highest level would be being honest with whoever's coming in, right? Creating a dynamic where they understand, look, if I'm going to do this role, which I've done many times and I'm really good at, this is my superpower. And I'm not promising you anything. By the way, I think it's really, it's very, there might look like it might look like a fine line between confidence in what you can do versus promising results. but it's very different. And I don't ever promise results. I've kind of gotten away from ever saying anything results related.
Do you message though to your customer that specifically, like, hey, we are not here, we can't guarantee results? Do you message that early and often?
Very much. Very much.
And I think that's the problem.
I mean, it has to be accepted to the point where, and honestly, this is where, and this is not even a tactic, but what happens is the right customers start selling you on why I get it, but we're good and it's going to work. And I really want you because you've done this and this and this and you've been part of this. Yeah. And we're really honest about, hey, we've done X, Y, and Z. We've done we've had all amazing results, right? We work with these strategies that we've developed over 20 years and they work. I can't guarantee that those successes will translate to you, but I can guarantee that I'm like in this area, I'm the best at this thing. And so I could probably say, like, if anyone could do it, I could do it in this particular area, but I still can't guarantee results. You have to accept the risk on that side because you're responsible for your business, right?
Yeah.
But I can tell you that I am the guide. If you want this guide that does this thing, that's me, right? With absolute confidence. What I won't do is I cannot be successful if you're telling me, well, I need you to do this way and this way and change it to this thing and that. No, it's my way because I know my way for me has worked the best. And if you want the results that these guys have, if you want to be able to target and achieve those results, I can't guarantee that you will, but if that's the goal, then it's got to be this way. It can't be your way over here and all that kind of stuff. It just doesn't work.
To put myself into the customer's shoes, I can clearly see and feel empathetic to them because I feel like, that's why we live in the RFP world. Not we as an agency, but all of us deal at times where, we have RFPs that are given to, why the companies do RFPs is what I'm trying to say. Anyways, is because they are going to commit to an agency for a period of time. And yes, an agency can actually directly affect, if they make the wrong choice, that can have a huge impact on their business. Let's just say that. It can. And why a lot of times, a company will get a new marketing director or somebody and at that level, and they'll bring in their own agency that they've had history with because they trust them and they know exactly what they're going to get with them. And I think that's the key, is that it is a risk, high risk for customers. And so if you know that going in, if you know that that's already high risk, for them to work with you is on their end very, very risky. And it's not even risky for the company. It's risky for the person who's hiring you. The marketing director's job's at risk. So you're can get your client hired or fired.
But let me just say this.
If you don't.
No, totally.
So,
but business is risky.
Yeah.
Like being in business is risky. Like, everyone's got risk. It'd be risky for me to take on a client. I mean, that there's risk across the board. What surprises me is that, not surprise me. What I think may be a better way to think about when you hire an outside vendor, this is how I think about it, because we have outside agencies that work for us and do things for us in some of our businesses. I think you have to think about it similar to when you hire an employee, right? And when you hire an employee, you're judging on a few criteria. Right, you're judging on experience and the uniqueness of this person, and sometimes that person has a reputation that if I bring them in, right, they've done enough things to where if I bring them in, I know they have a certain philosophy on how to do things that aligns with what I want, and that's how I would suggest agencies become, is they have a certain reputation for a certain philosophy that has certain results attached to it that people want that philosophy that only they can give, right, and there are certain kind of employees that are like that as well. But the point is when you're looking at hiring an employee, there's a different frame of mind. I think it's actually more, it's a more successful one, right? Because people hire employees and do amazing things with them. They also hire agencies and do amazing things too. But I think it's more likely to hire an agency and not think about, do they align with what I'm doing? Do they understand the business? Do they believe in what we're going after? Do they have the same characteristics and traits and character and values and all these different things that may be important? And some of that filtering, I think, is how you get success when you're bringing someone in, and I think that's done on the employee level. I don't think it's always done on the contractor level. I think that's almost seen as siloed. I think sometimes that can create the issue, is because you bring in the wrong people, and then you have maybe unrealistic expectations of what they can do on their own. Where if you looked at an employee, you would never think that, right? You'd never say like, well, this guy is going to be able to just 10x my business without me giving him any more resources, and just by himself, and no management, and no results, and not even vetting who he is and what he can do and all that kind of stuff. Like, you would never do that, right? And so I kind of think, and then there's certain risks attached to obviously hiring employees, which and I think the same risks are attached to just truthfully hiring contractors or agencies, right? They're just people, and they need to align with what you do. They need to be part of your team. They need to be part of your process. They need to understand at your level. They some of the all those things that make an employee a good team member that can kind of get you somewhere. I think those things are the same for contractors, because they're just human beings as well. And sometimes it's even more important, because more pressure is on potentially that contractor, because it's a whole team of people, right? So now you got a whole nother team, right, that you need to kind of make sure is aligned in general with what you're trying to do. And I just wonder if there isn't always enough of that awareness there. And if there was, then there might be more successful relationships between those sides. As I think back to some of our most successful client relationships, where we've had like really great monetary success and really great like relational success. Like I'm friends with all of them. And by the way, we've done this analysis about a year ago, maybe actually about 18 months ago. We did this analysis, and we've started only taking in like targeting people that fit those characteristics, and it's been a tremendous, an amazing upside. Like it's been such a great change. Not that it was bad before, but now almost every single situation is starting to feel like this thing could be as successful as we thought it could be. Anyway, as I look back at the most successful ones, we all align like in many ways, like how we think about business, how we think about the world, the product, what we want, what the goal is, and how we measure success and mutual respect and all these different things. And so I think that's important, right? And that might be a factor here.
I'll jump back as we start to wind this down to the communication, and early on. There's a tool that I use that might be helpful to you or to anyone listening that could help to maybe address this a little bit better as well. It's called HumanIK, HumanTic.ai. And it is a tool. It's a plugin. It's a software. It's built by psychologists and business owners. And what it does is it's a language model that analyzes specifically someone's LinkedIn profile. So if you have a client you're talking to or you're selling to, you plug in this. It's a monthly fee, and what it does is it does an almost perfect job of analyzing their psychological profile based on DISC and some other things. From their content. So how they wrote their bio, the posts they've done, the comments they've made. And so what it does is, so you know going into it, what type of person is this? What's their risk aversion? What kind of words and things they respond to? What to stay away from? How to address them? What are their main pain points? All from a communication and a psychological profile. And I've found it really, really helpful. And especially with teams that I work with, I say, here's the people that are going to be on this phone call. Here are their psychological profiles. And that really helps to really direct and manage expectations and say, you know, this guy is risk averse. So when you're talking about all these risks, that's probably not a good thing. Or this person doesn't want to have small talk. They just want the bullet points. And crafting that and getting on the same page early on so that you're not going in and you're leaving that call thinking, man, that was a great call. And meanwhile, the client's like, I'll never work with those guys. Or they heard something totally different and you get in the agreement, 2 months down the road and you just, you're misaligned. So I would say that's one, HumanIK.ai. I would really encourage anybody to check that out. It's really helpful because I think what we're all talking about is relationship, clarity, communication, expectations, any way that you can dive deeper into that side of it. And it's really cool that you guys did an analysis of your personal relationships with all your past customers. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah.
What they all have in common.
Understanding for your agency, your business, identifying what could be a red flag that you've seen before to try to create some guardrails initially so that when you first have discussions with a potential new client, for instance, there's enough there that you guys can kind of read to go, okay, is this a client that says one thing and then we're going to get into a relationship with them and we're not on the same page? And how do you get on that page? Not that they're not going to be a good client or a bad client or even a client you'd want to stay away from, but just understand how to navigate that and how to properly communicate. Maybe it's a day workshop where you communicate everything and you feel like you're more on a good starting page. So I think it's just understanding, having those things early in your business to be able to identify those things where everyone can kind of measure that and guide that. And if that starts off with understanding your clients better, doing the psychological profiles, just to really understand, because I think the biggest issue is it's just there's an understanding that was never communicated. It's just like any relationship, right? That's why relationships struggle, is because we don't communicate well. And we have expectations that are never communicated. So
just make them famous.
Yeah, make your clients famous.
This has been good. This is the first episode, by the way, of the 3-camera shoot. So I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but we all have our cameras now. So go check it out on YouTube. Yeah, and like us, follow us, and all that good stuff. Any closing comments, guys?
Yeah, just keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
Just listen to this episode again. I'll be re-listening to it.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right.
Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.